What's up YouTube, Barcode here, bringing you another Epic 7 video. This video is going to be your free-to-play guide on gear and, what you should do early game and maybe just a little bit, past mid-game, early game, mid-game, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to be a free-to-play version for it. Please just remember, if you do like my content, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit notifications if you want to get the quickest updates to my videos as possible. And we'll go ahead and go on to the video. So first I want to talk about really just the gear sets, okay? Now, we all know just by hitting descriptions of what the gear sets are, speed is 25%, increase to your base, attack is 35% increased, destruction, which is more of like an advanced gear set, which I'm going to talk about in a later video. Kind of like destruction, lifesteal, rage, even the resist sets. You don't necessarily need to focus on that early game. It's more of an advanced video. Unity sets, immunity. Immunity sounds the same, but I'm gonna go into more of an advanced build, mid-game, maybe late game, PvP wise sets later in the game, later at a future date for that video. But what I want to talk about is what is more efficient early and what to look for and how to build things, okay? So let's go into gear quality. So gear quality, and I kind of want to, early game, you just get whatever. You just put on whatever you can, all right? And I'm gonna focus more on like starting at tier 4 gear, because that's when you should really, early game, start to invest into tier 4, and then tier 5, and then tier 6. That's tier 6 is the end goal for gear. But so let's just focus on those 3. So for the higher grades, so this is like a tier, let's go into actually a necklace or whatever. So the higher the grade, the higher percent of the gear is, right? So and also the higher quality, the higher it is, okay? So let's just go into, for example, this is a good example. So Assassin Cartula, okay? His necklace is a blue level 85 gear, okay? And the max is 55% on that. Now, if you just go into a gray, which free to play, I bought this super early, maxed it out because it ended up rolling pretty decent stats too. But as you see, it's a level 85 piece of gear, but it's only 50%. So the higher quality of the higher tier will give you a higher percentage, okay? So when you're looking into getting gear, early game, if you can get a gray easily, then just buy it. The percentages matter much more than anything else, especially early. You can get your substats and your stats in gear sets or in other pieces of gear to optimize that crappy piece of gray gear, right? So the higher quality and the higher tier, the higher percentage in the necklace, ring, and boots that you're going to get, right? If you're looking for gear, free to play early, that's why everybody talks about, trying to hit max level as soon as possible so you can max out your secret shop. In the secret shop, you do get pieces of gear that drop, and they can drop the level 80s and level 70 gear, and some very rarely they'll do a good quality piece of gear. So I'll just refresh while I'm talking about that for a little bit. So buying higher tiers for a starting point, like I said, even if it's a gray, if early game, it's not a bad idea, okay? Mid game, late game, you're able to farm Wyvern 9, whatever the case, you could farm Labyrinth. Not necessarily a good thing to do in the shop is to buy gray. You definitely want to shoot for purple or epic, the red pieces of gear in the higher tiers. So definitely kind of skip getting out on the grays, like, especially don't buy any that are like chests that are gray. You only want to focus on rings, necklaces, and boots in the shop early game, okay? So let's look into like the necklace and the rings and the boots and everything, and your basic flat starting point, okay? So level 85 piece of gear, right? Speed is 7 as a purple item, and if you want to theory craft early, you want to multiply whatever that main stat number is by 5, and that's going to be your max. So for this piece of gear, the speed will be 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. So this will level up to a speed of 35 flat. It's not a percentage for speed for the boots, it's just a flat addition, 35 speed, okay, added. A good thing to think about is when building characters and building gear, what sets they're going to be on. It does matter, okay, and it matters to the character's base speed or base stats, right? So let's go into just an example of one of my characters, and we'll go into whatever, Kisei, okay? So when you look into either, okay, I want to make this character tanky, or I want to make this character fast, or just a nuker, or whatever, look at the base stats first, right? So if you have a higher base speed, like for example like Sid or the Red Crayon, right? Let's just go into Sid because I don't have any gear on him yet because I just pulled and leveling up. So base speed is 122, right? You're going to get more of a benefit putting a speed set on him than you would, for example, like Lots, who has a 97 base speed, because it goes by base speed. You get the 25% boost with the speed set to 122 rather than, what is it, 97, right? So speed set will benefit more on Sid than it would Lots. However, if you want to put on a boot that has a speed main stat, right, this would benefit Lots more than it would Sid, because it, you know, you get 35 base no matter what, right? So if that makes sense, you're gonna benefit for a speed boot more on him, where you could put on a different gear set, like maybe like triple health or triple defense, whatever, right? Resist, immunity set, right? It just depends on the actual character's base speed, if that makes sense. So also want to talk about substats. So substats, right? Depending on the piece of gear, which, like I said, I want to start at like tier 4. When you're leveling up a piece of gear, I don't have much tier 4 gear, but the substats down at the bottom, like for speed, for example, every substat roll on a +3, +6, +9, +12, +15, you're going to get either a minimum roll of 2 or a maximum roll of 5. So if you're leveling a piece of gear and you're getting like, you know, you're on like +6 and you've gotten 2 minimal rolls of 2, you might not want to level it anymore. That's kind of more of like an advanced you know, theory crafting type of thing in the future. Not necessarily early game, but if you're farming Wyvern for a long time and you're getting a bunch of gear and you have, say, 2 pieces of gear that are the same, right? And you're leveling one, you're leveling the other one gets 2 minimum rolls of 2, and then the other piece of gear gets 2 rolls of 5, you know, in the substats. That's going to be your better piece of gear depending on substats anyway. So tier 4 gear, minimum of 2, maximum of 5 in the substats. Tier 5 gear is minimum of 3, maximum of 7% added on, unless it's a speed substat, then it's flat, right? And then tier 6 is 4 minimum and 8 maximum. So when you're leveling gear, definitely look into that and pay attention to what the percentage of increase you get on the +3, +6, +9, +12, and +15, right? Because in this game, it's a little different than other games that other gacha players might be used to. Is when you hit that max +15, you get another substat increase. A lot of games like Dungeon Hunter Champions, Summoner's War, when you hit that max level, you don't get an extra increase to substat. So just something to think about. Let's go ahead into skills and characters, right? So skills and characters actually do matter on how you want to build them, right? And really it depends on if your role, your specific role, right? So if you're a nuker, if you're a damage dealer, if you're a healer, whatever the case may be, the gear of what you choose, the gear sets, the way you build them is going to be completely different, and for completely different scenarios. If you're using them for PvE, if you're using them for arena, you could build the same character 2 different ways for PvP and for PvE. So it really just matters on how you are going to use them, right? So let's go into like your straight nuker, for example, right? Nukers, there's 2 different types of nukers. There's just your straight damage dealer, right? But then there's also like ignore defense monsters, or champions, characters, whatever you want to call them, right? So the main, you can build them slow, you can build them fast depending on the type of skills that they have. You can build them, you know, like a hybrid, like somewhat fast, you know, but nukey as well. So for example, like I'm gonna go into maybe like Assassin Cartula, right? So I have him on a lifesteal build just because it's the best kind of gear that I've gotten as free to play. So he's slow, but he has 3100 attack, so he hits hard, and he has crappy crit, but it's free to play life, right? So I'm farming up my 6 stars, I'm farming Wyvern, whatever. So you can build him a couple different ways, right? He has a bleed, which I'll talk about bleed, burn, and poison in a minute, but bleed is based off of his attack percentage. It's only like 30-35% of the caster's attack that goes on to the enemy, but it is a debuff. So I use him as a frontline Wyvern, and it's just because of his passive, and he has a defense break and just hits hard, and he's very evasive. So that's why I use him frontline. But there's 3 different ways you can build someone, right? And it's an attack set. And this is basic, okay? I'm not going to go into destruction, lifesteal, or rage. That'll be a different video. There's an attack set. You can go attack, crit damage, attack. So attack boots, attack ring, and a crit or crit damage. This is ultimately what you want. Crit damage into the necklace. Now, free to play early, it's going to be very hard to get 100% crit and have like a crit damage necklace at the same time. So a couple ways you can do that is you know, go attack on the boots, attack on the ring, and you can get like a crit rate necklace, which like for Shuri, for example, I have 100% crit rate on him, but I also have, you know, this crit necklace that gives crit chance, and he needs 100%, right? So but then I also have, this is like your ultimate early game free to play build right here. It's just triple crit set, right? So crit set, you get 12%. So you get 12, 24, 36% just to start off. And then you can go into substats and or the necklace to get your crit. Okay, that's kind of like your super early game free to play build, right? But anyway, so nukers, attack set, attack, crit damage, attack. If you can't get crit damage, that you can go crit rate in the necklace, and maybe with the 2 sets you can try to get the crit set for a 12% extra. There's also a way you can do if you want them like a hybrid build, and this depends on your base speed like I talked about. So you could do like a speed set, right? So like a attack. I use her for the armor break, AoE armor break. So let me try to find like a better example. Blah blah blah. So you could do like the speed set if they have like a high base speed, like a somewhat high, anywhere above like 100 to 115 or something, and then go like attack in the boots and attack in the necklace, and then crit damage or crit rate depending on your subs into the necklace, right? Or you could do the attack set to get like the 35% boost to your attack, and you could go speed in your speed boot, right? So, and you kind of want to do this more for a lower base speed character. Like that you want to be hard hitting and a nuker. So just a couple things with that. And then you have to think about also speed based characters, like for example who I'm gonna be building soon is Sid. You know, every single piece of you know, 2 out of the 3 anyway, his damage is based off of his speed. So you know, in that example, and he has a high base speed, you go speed set with a speed boot, and then you can do attack in the necklace or the ring, and then crit damage in the necklace. So it really just depends on the character that you're trying to build and how you want to build them. If it's just super fast first turn, somewhat hybrid, or just a slow nuker. If you, with the slow nukers, you need some kind of combat readiness, or they're just not going to do anything. Like team combat readiness, you know, whether that's Shuri, whether that's Requiem Roar. One good person that I think is underrated is Lots. So this second skill will increase the combat readiness to 100% when it's fully skilled up. So if you build Lots, for example, super duper fast, right? He can go ahead and just combat readiness your slow nuker and then do what he needs to do, right? And it's on a 2-turn cooldown, so that's huge. So every 2 turns he can just keep upping the combat readiness of your I always talk about this, it's always about your team comp. Whatever the game, whatever you're trying to do in the game, it's always about team comp. It doesn't matter who you use, it's about who you use with others in the team comp. There's so many different things you could do in this game, especially with the different characters that you have. Lots will be on my radar pretty shortly. So ultimately, I'll talk about that in an advanced video, but destruction or rage set depending on the type of nuker, but that's for another video. So what I want to talk about now is burns, bleeds, and poisons, right? So ultimately, how you want to look at it is poison is like the king of PvE, right? Especially for Abyss, and depending on the situation, you know, the new raid. But Abyss, the poison is just huge. Okay, so like Kiris, Alexa, whatever, you know, those type of characters that apply poison is huge. It does 5% of the enemy's max HP. Okay, now you want to talk about burns and bleeds. They're kind of more for PvP to try to just kill something off, or for Wyvern if you're trying to apply a ton of debuffs on the enemy buff, and with a little bit of extra damage. Burns and bleeds are very good for that. It just applies that extra debuff so that the Wyvern doesn't hit you, right? What I'm trying to test and want to confirm is the difference between burn and bleed. Okay, so I've heard through the grapevine that burn actually does like 60% of the caster's attack, where bleeds do like roughly 30 to 35% of the caster's attack. So if that's the case, that will also ultimately depend on how you build characters. Like for example, Serial. Cerelia, whatever you want to call her, or Araminta, right? People that apply burns. Carrot, right? A 3-star Carrot, right? You might want to just build attack set and triple attack and get your crit, like, you know, from substats, or your 2-piece or whatever, right? And not go into crit damage, because they are burn characters and they apply a ton of burns, and you could do a ton of damage that way. Or do you just build them straight nuker? Like for bleeds, for example, I wouldn't focus like on a full attack set with triple attack, just because it only does 30%. You know, burn would do a lot more. I would just build them like a nuker. So like I say all the time, it just depends on who you want to use, what your team comp is, whatever. Okay, so let's go into poison though real quick. You can make them super fast and tanky. Like for Kiris, for example, you can make her just super fast, super tanky. She doesn't need to do damage on her main skills. You can just build her just fast and tanky with a lot of effectiveness, so that resistance isn't an issue. because no matter what your attack is, poison is going to do the same amount of damage to the enemy. So for this, for example, when the enemies are starting to hit a lot harder, you don't want your cures to get one shot and die when she's on a nuke build, right? So just build her fast and tanky, and then you can profit from that. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick. So builds, okay? So builds we talked about nukes, right? We talked about nukers. For healers, right? There's two different types of healers that you could do. You know, you can make them, you know, super tanky, right? You can make them like for a frontliner. Maybe has a cleanse. You can make them super tanky, depending on if their heals are based off of HP or if they're based off of attack or whatever the case may be. Will depend on how you want to build them as well. So like for Destina or Angelica, if you know their heals are based off of max HP of herself, right? So you want to make them either super tanky or you know, if you want to get some speed, you can make them have a speed boot, and then like triple HP or whatever. So as you can see here, I do have a speed set on Angelica, right, just to get some extra speed, but I have like health, and I have a crit rate gear and like a counter gear, and what I call that is the broken set, which a lot of people are familiar with as well from other games. So a broken set is they have it's good stats, but they're broken because it's not a 2-piece. Like I have the speed set, which is the 4-piece, and the 2 set is broken because I just want the stats. I just want that health percentages, which I need to level them up. But it's just, you don't necessarily have to put a 2-piece on if you don't have the right gear for it, right? So if you got your 4-piece, which is more important, yes, that's perfect, right? So then you get your 2-piece. It doesn't have to, early game, you don't need to get the set, okay? So like I said, healers, you can build them super tanky, triple HP, a ton of resist, be your frontline tank plus healer, right? Or you can build them a little bit fast, or you can build someone like Lots, for example, or you know, or Rin, or whatever the case may be. You can build them just on a speed set with speed boots and just make them tanky elsewhere, like speed and HP, because a lot of their stuff is like continuous healing, or you know, whatever the case may be. Is Rin that? No, not Rin. Lots, I mean, yeah, not lots. Continuous healing, you know, it's not based off of the caster's HP, it's based off of the target's max HP, and the percentage of that is the heal. So you could build, you know, Lots, you know, speed set with speed boots, and then like HP defense in the necklace and gloves, and then just go from there. So just a couple different ways to build healers. Nukers, like I said, you know, I already talked about nukers and the attack base, and it depends on if their skills are speed based or if they're attack based, or whatever the case may be, is how you build them. For supports, like for example, combat readiness characters, depends on who it is, but you know, Requiem Roar, for example, for combat readiness, you want them on a speed set with speed boots and high effectiveness, and you can either build Requiem Roar as like tanky support, or you can make her actually do some damage if you build her like a nuke. Shuri, for example, ultimately you want a speed set with 100% crit, get some effectiveness in there, and you know, profit from that. But that's kind of what you want, is the supports to be able to support your team as much as possible with whatever buffs, shields, debuffs on the enemy, whatever. Nukers, everybody knows how to build a nuker by now. And healers, you either want to make them slow, or you want and tanky or fast as possible to get immunity buffs up, shields, heals as much as possible, but also a little bit like a bruiserish type of build, you know, speed, HP defense, or speed, HP, whatever you can get. But those are kind of my beginner free-to-play tips on how to build. I'm going to talk about, again, in a more advanced video, artifacts that will go with certain builds. The more advanced gear sets like Destruction, Rage, Unity, Immunity, whatever, more PvP based video, and then I will go into that later. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope this helps a lot of the free play players do what they need to do to progress, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.